guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Danielle with DMC Crochet, and today we are going to make a super duper simple, super quick ear warmer slash headband. So this is what it looks like for those who can see. For those who can't see, it is because the yarn is thicker, we're using that bulky weight 5 yarn. It is quite textured, so it's in the shape of a rectangle right now, but it does go around my head. It is 15 stitches wide by 53 rows tall for me. The way that you would measure it, so we're going to be crocheting a huge rectangle, and so it's always going to be that 15 stitches across, and then it's going to be or how do I say this? So you're going to make it as tall so that it will wrap around your head and connect at the back of your head when it's done. So if your head is a little bit smaller, if your head's a little bit bigger, you would kind of make as many rows as it takes for the project to go all the way around your head. Okay, so the yarn that I used for this is, again, it's a bulky weight 5, and it is by Lion brand, and it is called Woolies Thick and Quick, and the color I used is pumpkin. So it's a very close to the outside of a pumpkin color, very beautiful orange. It's definitely a fall color, and it's May now, but you know, you can never start crocheting too early for the fall or for, you know, Christmas gifts. So you're gonna need your skein of bulky weight 5 yarn, and you're going to need a size N crochet hook, so a 10mm crochet hook. Of course, we are going to need our scissors, and we are also going to need a yarn needle. Wow, mine flew way over here. So it's going to be a yarn needle or a blunt ended needle with a pretty good size eye. Okay, so we're going to get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to chain 16. Okay. So I have tutorials on my channel for the slip knot, the chain stitch, and the single crochet. So if you don't know how to make these stitches, go ahead and check those out. There's a lot of verbal description for those who are blind. And then also, if you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me. So my email address is dmadecrochet@gmail.com. So dmadecrochet@gmail.com. Okay. So I've got my slip knot on my hook, just pulling her tight, and I'm going to I'm going to chain 16. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Okay, so remember that the chain, when you've done your chain, your stitches are going to look like a printed letter V. Okay, so the front of your chain is going to be that printed letter V, and then the back of the chain is going to have kind of like a little spine. So you're going to be able to feel the little spine bumps on the back side. Okay, so my work right now, I am right-handed, and so my work is facing 9 o'clock. So that slip knot is way over here at 9 o'clock. That's where it's facing. So that means my work, I'm going to be crocheting like right to left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip this first chain. So remember that the loop on your hook, it's your working yarn. So that is not ever counted as a stitch, okay? So we're going to single crochet into the second chain from our hook. So we don't count this one on our hook. There's this one, and then we're going to skip that that first one, and then we're going into the second one. Now, this is a print letter V, and my work right now is, it's the way that I have my work, it's facing, the points of the V's are facing to 9 o'clock. So they're not straight up and down like you would normally see. They're facing, the points are facing to the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to single crochet into this top leg of the V. Okay. If I were holding the work like vertically, then it would be the left leg of the V, but because I'm holding it horizontally and the points of the V are facing to the left, it's the upper leg. Okay, so I'm just going to single crochet all the way down, and you're going to get 15 single crochets when you're done with this row. Now, I'll verbally describe how it should feel when you're doing a single crochet, okay? So what you're doing is you have your working loop on your hook. What you're going to do is you're going to stick it into that, or under that top leg of the V. Then you will have 2 loops on your hook, the working loop and that top leg. You're going to yarn over, and remember, yarning over is bringing your yarn from back to front. So from behind your hook to the front, you wrap it. Now you'll have 3 loops on your hook. So the yarn over you just made, the leg of the V, and the working loop. Okay, so what you're going to do is, and use your thumb here, put your thumb between the working loop of the yarn and the leg of the V. So have it like 90 degrees from the head of your hook. And what you're going to do is you're just going to push up until the tip of your crochet hook comes through. So that bent piece of the crochet hook, until that comes through the loop that you're pushing up. And then just keep pushing until those come off. So then you're left with 2 loops on your hook. Okay, you're going to yarn over one more time. So you're back up to 3 loops on your hook, and then you're going to take your thumb, and you are going to put your thumb under everything, or, you know, you're going to do that 90-degree angle thing, and you're going to push all the loops on your hook up until that tip, the bent piece of your hook, comes through all the work, and then just push it off. And then you're left with 1 loop on hook. So that's going to be your working loop. Okay, let's do that one more time, and I'll describe it one more time. So on my hook, I have right now just the working loop. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my hook with the bent piece of the hook facing my table. Okay, I'm going to stick it under that upper leg of the V. Now I have 2 loops on hook. That's going to be the working loop and then the leg of the V. I'm going to yarn over. So now I have 3 loops on hook. So closest to the head of the hook is going to be the yarn over, followed by the leg of the V in the middle, and then the working loop at the bottom, so closest to the other end of the hook. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thumb, and you can let go of your yarn with your left hand if it's easier for you to feel your way around doing this for the first few times. So what you're going to do is you're going to face your hook, so it's facing the table now. Face that bent piece of the hook, give it about a 45-degree turn to the left. So the hook is now facing 9 o'clock, okay? So you're just going to push your thumb and the two loops closest to the head of the hook up until that bent edge of the hook, that tip of the hook, comes through the loop. So you'll feel it, your thumb will connect with it, and then push them off. Push those 2 loops off. So now you're left with 2 loops on hook. You would yarn over, you're back up to 3, and then push them all off with that thumb. So that's how you're going to do your single crochets on this foundation, or when you're working in the foundation chain. So this row is probably going to be the hardest row to get started, only because you're working through the chains, and especially when you're starting out, it could be a little bit confusing, like, oh, where do I put my hook, or, you know, how do I push it through, that kind of thing. So, but don't worry, you can always, you know, unravel and keep practicing, or, you know, take a break from it if it's stressing you out a little bit, because this is definitely meant to be more of a relaxing thing, and you're not going to be perfect when you do this. I mean, you might be, you know, you might have no mistakes, or you might catch on really quickly, but that, it's not the case for most of us. And so just don't let yourself get discouraged. Just, you know, take it slow, and, you know, you can always unravel it. So I'm coming up to the end of my row here. So if you hear snoring, Schultz is in the room with me. He is sleeping right by my chair. Oh yeah, he's snoring. Alright, so, and you do want to make a single crochet into that very first chain you made, even though it might be a little bit tighter because it's right up against that slip knot. So just work your way through, and I like these metal hooks for that reason, because I feel like I can really be a little bit more forceful if you use a plastic hook, it might break. Oh, I just broke the stitch. But plastic hooks, if you have a good handle on them, they're fine too. Alright, here we go. Okay, now I'm going to put my hook down because I'm going to count my stitches to make sure that I have 15. Okay, so remember we chained 16, but we skipped that first chain at the beginning of the row. Now the way to count your stitches, if you can't see, is these also have V's at the top, so you can count your V's. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Alright, so I know that I have 15 single crochets. Okay, so I'm picking my hook back up. I'm going to chain 1. And then I'm going to turn my work, and you turn your work like the page of a book, so from right to left. And that 15th stitch that we did on the row now becomes the first stitch on the next row. Okay, so we're going to single crochet. Now this row is a little bit different. The second row and then here on out, this is all that we're doing for the pattern, so we're just single crocheting through. But this is a little bit different because you're going under both legs of the V this time. So in that first row, we went under just that the one leg of the V. This time you're going through both. So it's going to feel a little bit different. So I'll talk you through. So I have my working loop on my hook. Also, this time you're not going to skip the first stitch. Okay, you're not going to skip that first single crochet and then go into the second one. Because remember when we did the crocheting into the foundation chain, we skipped one? Well, we don't have to skip one this time. We're going through all 15 stitches. Okay, so we have our working loop on the hook, and we're going to put the hook under both legs of the V. So if you're doing this tactile without seeing, it's going to feel like you have 3 loops on your hook, which you don't. It's just both legs of the V. Okay, you're going to yarn over, and it feels like 4 loops on the hook, which it's really not. It's just the 2 legs of the V. Then you're going to do the same thing where you're going to push it off with your thumb. Now you'll have 2 loops on hook, yarn over, pull through everything, or I'm sorry, you would have 3 loops on hook, and you yarn over, pull through everything. Okay, so I'm going to show you that one more time. So now I just have my working yarn on my hook, my working loop. So I'm going to put that under both legs of the V. So now it feels like I have 3 loops on my hook, which I don't. I just have the 2 legs of the V. Then you want to yarn over. So you're going to have the yarn over closest to the tip of the hook. You're going to have the yarn over, then the V, and then closest to the blunt end of your hook is going to be the working loop. So you're going to push your thumb through, your thumb in those first 2 loops off. Okay, now you're left with 2 single crochet or 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 3. Okay. you're going to do this till you get all the way to the end. So this is it. This is the pattern repeat. You're going to do 15 single crochets in each row until your strip gets long enough to where it can wrap around your head and connect. And then when it connects, you want to leave one extra row, or create one extra row, because when you seam it together, it's going to shrink just a little bit. And seaming these together, it's not a big deal. I will show you how you're going to seam it together, but I'm getting to the end of this row, and I want to show you a common mistake that I know I made a lot when I first started to crochet, and every once in a while I catch myself doing this too, so it's a good reminder for me as well. Alright, so I have a couple more stitches to go. Now, I'm close to the end, okay? It feels like I have 2 more stitches to go into. That's what it feels like tactily. It feels like I have 1 stitch that's got the regular V. It feels normal, but then right next to it, it feels like there's another little V hanging off the edge, okay? That's not another stitch. That is the chain 1 that we did to come up to the next row. So you don't go into that stitch. So the best way to figure out which stitch you're going into or how many stitches you have is by counting. I know some people want to say like, oh, well, I can feel it, or I'll know, and you might, and that's good, but especially if you're starting out, you want to get into that habit of counting. Okay, so then the way to just double check that you have 15 stitches on the row is you want to pull up on this working loop until it's exaggerated, until you can fit like 2 or 3 fingers in it, 3 or 4 fingers, whatever. Okay, put your hook down, and then we're going to count. We're counting V's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I know now because I've counted the V's. Also, you can count the spaces between your single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You can also count the spaces between the single crochets or count the V's. Okay, so I know that even though I feel this little nubby thing at the end of the row, that I've got 15, so that's all I'm going to need. So I can chain 1, turn my work like a book, and then start single crocheting down the row again. You never want to get too far without counting. So let's say, like, even if you feel comfortable and you're like, okay, I'm not going to count this row, always at least count every other row, because you can start adding stitches or leaving off stitches pretty easily. So it's best to just count. It's really gonna set you up to finish off a really good project if you count. So let me get a few more rows in here, and I will come back to show you how to seam this together and how to finish it off. Alright, I am back. I've just done like a little swatch for you guys just so that I can show you how to finish this up. But again, you guys go as tall as you need to for this to go around your head, or like if you're making this for your child, for it to go around their head. Okay, so let's say that I've got my 53 rows done. Okay, so all you're going to do is you're going to fold it in half. Hamburger, right? Like there's the hamburger way and the hot dog way. So you're going to fold it in half hamburger, or widthwise, I guess would be the correct grown-up terminology. Okay, so, and then you're going to make sure that your stitches are all lined up. This is super duper important, because if you don't make sure that your stitches are lined up and you just start slip stitching this together, it's going to have a crooked seam, and that's not going to look as nice. All right, so the way that I am holding this work, I am holding it, actually let me flip it over. Okay, So I'm holding this work with the tail that I started with. So the tail that I created when I made my slip knot is at the upper left corner of my work. And then my hook and my working yarn are at the bottom right. Okay? So then you want to fold this in half. Hamburger. Alright, so then what you're going to do is you're going to slip stitch. So a slip stitch is the smallest crochet stitch that there is. The slip stitch isn't really meant to add any height to your work. It's meant to, it's kind of like a traveler stitch. So it's really good for seaming things. But then let's say like you have a pattern where it says, you know, your row is 20 stitches long and it tells you start at stitch number 15. So to get there, instead of pulling your yarn just through up to stitch 15 and start, you know, crocheting from there, you would slip stitch across until you get where you need to be. Because it doesn't add any height to your work, but it gets you where you need to be without having like crazy holes in your work or strands of yarn that are just kind of hanging there. So a slip stitch is super easy. So what you're going to do is you're going to go through the, okay, so you chain one at the end of your last row. You're going to go through the two legs of the V, just like you have been in this first stitch. But then what you're going to do is you're going to go through the first stitch on the part that you folded. Okay, so because you've done that, because you've gone through both stitches, you're going to have your working loop on your hook, and then you're going to have the V and then the stitch from across the way, and then you're going to yarn over. Okay? And then so what you're going to do, and this is kind of tough, you're going to have to wiggle your hook a little bit. You pull through all of it. Okay? That's a slip stitch. You pull through that whole thing, and that's it. Okay? Talk it through again. So I'm going into the legs, or under the legs of the V of the next stitch. Gonna go into the stitch across the hall. And so if you're doing it the way I'm doing it, this row that you're going into across the way is the bottom of your foundation chain. And it's only going to be one strand. So it's going to feel like your working loop, the two legs of the V, the one strand that you're going through from across the way, which is the bottom of your foundation chain, and then you're going to yarn over. It's going to feel like you have 5 loops on your hook. Then once you've yarned over, you have to kind of wiggle your hook through and pull through all of it. So you're going to slip stitch across the whole row, and this takes time. The most important thing here when you're slip stitching is just making sure that you are lined up stitch to stitch, because like I said before, if you don't, you're gonna end up seeming crooked, which, I mean, hey, that's cool if you want that look. I know fashion is a very subjective thing. Yeah, so we're just gonna go across here with our slip stitches. And to be honest with you, slip stitch isn't necessarily like my favorite thing to do, because it's hard to wrestle with the yarn. But that's also me, because I don't practice. And practice definitely makes perfect. Whoops. Alright, so I will show you really quickly. I'm going to stop doing this because I want to show you how to weave in the end of your yarn. I know I talked through it very briefly in one of my other videos, but I want to just show you the end of this and then let you go. So what you're going to do is you are going to put your yarn, you know, thread your needle. And the tricky thing with these, some of these needles, because this yarn is so chunky, you might have to like roll it around in your fingers a little bit to thin out that strand of yarn in order to thread your needle. Once it gets on there, it's fairly easy to move, but it's just getting it on there. So you're going to thread your needle, and then you're just going to weave your tail in back and forth for about 2 inches. So, you know, weave it in back and forth, you know, 2 inches forward and then 1 inch back. And then you would snip it right here at the, you know, you would snip it at the end of the yarn that you're working. And you would do it with your tail of your working yarn too. So once you're done with your slip stitches, you would cut your yarn off of the skein. And okay, so let me show you. Oh, these slip stitches are like knotting up. Oh gosh. Okay, so I'm at the very end of the row. I'm at the very last stitch where I need to do my slip stitch, and this is probably going to be like one of the harder stitches just because you're at the end of the row. Oh, just kidding, it was really easy. Okay, so then to fasten off, you're going to pull up an exaggerated loop again, and you're going to set down your hook, and then you're going to follow your working yarn down about 3 to 4 inches. Okay. And then you are going to cut it off the skein. Okay, now you're going to find that exaggerated loop again. And you want to put your fingers through it. And then you want to grab that yarn that you just cut. And you're going to pull it through that exaggerated loop and tighten. Okay, and then now your work is fastened off. So now all that's left to do is to weave in the ends of it with your yarn needle. With this yarn, again, and I'll probably do a video where I show this better, but with this yarn, because it is so thick and bulky, you can actually do this with your fingers instead of trying to fight with your needle, because I was definitely fighting with my needle. So all you're gonna do is at the edge of your work, you're just going to weave the tails left and right, or I'm sorry, in and out for about, you know, like I said, 2 inches forward and then 1 inch back. I'm just doing a few here to show you guys how I'm doing it. So I'm just doing this around the very edge of my work. So not the seam, but the edge, like the side. And now I'm going backwards just a couple. Okay, and then once once you've hidden your tail pretty well, stretch your work out just a little bit so that that tail isn't bunched up. So just where you wove in your tail end, just kind of pull it a little bit, just so that when you cut it, there's not like a big lump in there, because that'll be pretty obvious. And then cut your yarn really close to your work, to where you can't really feel where you cut it. And then do that with the tail that you did when you created your slip knot, and then you will have a piece that looks like this. So this is how it will look. So you're going to be able to feel your seam, not terribly obviously, but you're going to be able to feel it in the work that you've done. So all you're going to do now, just to finish everything up, is just flip her inside out, so that that seam is on the inside of your ear warmer. And that is it, my friends. So congratulations if you've made it this far. Super double congratulations if my rambling made sense to you. I hope that you enjoyed making this ear warmer. If you have any questions, like I said, please feel free to reach out to me. Don't forget to subscribe, like my videos. If you don't like the videos, or if there's any questions that you feel that I didn't address, please, reach out to me. I'm trying to figure out what works best for you guys so that you can have a good experience with crochet, whether you can see or not. So thank you again for joining me, and I will be back with another tutorial soon.